Hi, welcome. On this video, I want to provide insight and context into a very popular concept when it comes to training dogs called clicker training. And here in this video put out by a very popular force-free dog trainer, goes by the name of Victoria Stilwell. I'm going to be using this video as a guide, as a reference point when it comes to understanding why it is that this concept, when it comes to motivating dogs to respond in the middle of a relationship problem, is problematic based on setting in motion a counterfeit picture of change at the very beginning. So again, when I talk about counterfeit picture, what I'm talking about is a failure to understand what a process represents once a relationship problem is already underway between the dog and owner. Once a dog owner is already experiencing behavioral issues, and why motivating dogs to respond and then focusing on those superficial responses as representing that that the perceptions of dogs are changing, that you can trust those responses as is without actually establishing or qualifying those responses as solid, okay, in the way that perception of dogs are actually changing, based again on trainers who are merely making assumptions. I talk about, well, making assumptions. What does that actually mean? Well, I talk about the two core ingredients, okay, by way of a process. When you're following a process, what it truly represents by way of a intervention, okay, versus a learning-based exercise, which again, the majority of the trainers out there approach a relationship problem between a dog and owner as a learning-based exercise, which is again the wrong way to approach a relationship problem when you consider that motivating dogs this way really leads people into wrong assumptions. And again, how I help people understand the problem here by way of this very popular idea that trains a learning-based exercise and this issue about a counterfeit picture is I used a parenting example. Okay, if you really think about this again, based again at the social level, I talk about dogs, how they connect with us that way. They share a very special connection socially, which really brings a spotlight on our role in the relationship. Okay, and again, just like the parenting role, okay, by way of a parent-child relationship, and understanding, in terms of, how to actually define change through your parenting role with how you're interacting with the child in meaningful ways. The themes that align with the authoritative parenting style, I'll talk about that. But this whole issue about I talk about counterfeit picture. And so again, when you consider a problem, okay, between a parent and a selfish child. So you talk about selfishness, okay, even talking about, reconciling what behavioral issues represent as a child becomes more and more selfish, behavioral issues escalate, okay, based on the child's level, I call stinking thinking, okay, so it's all about them. They go into a certain environment, how they talk to their parent, the issue about even getting them to respond. And again, this gets into this issue here because again, just consider a parent who's simply focusing on responses in a superficial way, and getting a child to say pick up their toys, and not based on a demand. That's the way we'll talk about this. Not based on demand, based on the roles. Okay, in terms of, hey, pick up your toys because it's a reasonable demand. You're the parent, and the child needs to keep their room clean. But pick up the toys, and here's a brand new Xbox game. Okay, if you do that, using a motivating agent, using something to motivate a response. But here's the real problem here: is that once a child has become selfish, okay, it changes everything if you're trying to define change through response that way. Okay, and understand this is what the entire dog training world is based on. Okay, failure to connect dots properly. Even when these trainers talk about behavioral issues, you don't hear them connecting dots by way, in terms of relationship, and then tying that into your role, the social aspect of the relationship. You don't hear them talking about that because they don't do it that way. Okay, they're jumping in and simply, setting responses in motion and just leading you into believing that those responses are you're good to go, that they represent some sort of a standard. That's totally upside down. Okay, I mean, this is why when I talk about these two core ingredients, influence and control, and tie this into, again, the example I use, like pick the toys up because you're the parent. Well, it takes a path of a demand. Okay, now for a selfish child, it's going to reveal truth, okay, in certain moments. So just consider, how in terms of the current state of relationship, how truth is revealed through certain, interactions as a parent, where a demand is in play rather than, we talk about this issue of bribery. Okay, so when people ask, well, when does bribery become bribery? Well, bribery becomes bribery when you don't connect the dots properly and you fail to tie it in terms of that you're actually experiencing a relationship problem and you're superficially, okay, motivating response at the very beginning. That's your jumping in point without, actually shining the spotlight on the role of, say, in terms of the parent example, the parent the right way. And even so, just picture, a so-called professional coming into your home. You're experiencing a relationship problem with your child that's already selfish, and the only thought process going on here is how can I, get the child to respond so I can, sell it that way. So they're coming in like Santa Claus with a bag of goodies over their shoulder, and they're totally bypassing the parental role. They're not even, considering the parenting style that's happening. They're not causation. They're not connecting any dots in terms of the social, right, aspect of the relationship that way. A total disconnect. And so, yes, you can get a selfish child to pick up the toys or do certain good responses, right? But the problem lies in the actual connecting dots, current state of relationship, total disconnect, and then, like, it's like leaving the scene of a crime and think about what's happening in the dog training world, all the blame shifting, and saying, well, there's something wrong here. Yeah, I can get, some good responses happening based on, again, bribery. But, the relationship isn't getting any better. So think about, in terms of going back to dogs as social animals. Yeah, dogs moving around the training environment, looking fantastic, doing a great sit down, come and stay. But so common, okay, this is part of the package deal here, for that to happen, you feel really good because I understand this does play into people's emotions, right? Because it doesn't bring the spotlight on your role the right way. And so it's going to seem very attractive and very engaging at the front end. But then coming on the other side, just discovering that things actually haven't gotten any better. And then because it's happening so much in the dog training world, it seems normal. Like blaming the dog seems normal. Well, no, it's this process. So how you want to consider, in terms of a process, well, it's a intervention versus a learning-based exercise. And so going back to this issue about appearances, this is why, dogs can be gaining an incredible amount of control in a relationship, even as they're, off leash, they're in your home environment, you're petting on them, they're going to like that. Even while things are building up to a point where in the relationship where behavioral issues are going to start to happen. Because again, how that ties in that connection socially, how you connect at an emotional level, those core ingredients I talk about, influence and control, leadership, right? Those things have to be part of, of the relationship. They have to be, happening, in a intentional way, especially once the relationship problem now is underway. Okay, now it has to be very intentional with how those align, how they come into a process. And how that happens is in and through a intentional interaction-based method. Okay, that reconciles your role, the role of influence, that brings it all in together the right way. And, so we talk about a motivator. Well, the relationship's the motivator, okay? The social connection. Dogs as pack animals. That you're playing off that connection. So you don't want to be motivating responses that way because that sets up a major problem. Okay, for so many, so you want to think different, but think the right way. But again, going back to this issue about just think about a selfish child. Sure, a selfish child can look well behaved most of their day as they're playing their video games, as they're doing what they want to do. But consider when truth is revealed, through certain interactions with the parents putting a reasonable demand on the child versus, bribery. So I talk about those three themes that, encompass really make up this idea of things. It's bribery, accommodation, and negotiation. Okay. I understand those are the themes in play because these trainers are not connecting dots in terms of even what behavior issues represent. And so people wonder why it is that things can look really good, within the framework of response, but then the relationship isn't getting any better. Understand that this happens all the time. So I want to talk through this because I understand it's important to have a foundation here. So I talk about, you see this trainer right away. Okay, this is their default setting. This is how they jump into, how they see training, by how they deal with a relationship problem. Is right away start to motivate a response and then, set that in motion. Major problem. Understand that this is why the dog training world is in the state that it's in. So I'm going to play some of this video. Again, this relates to clicker training. So we hear the word clicker training, it follows a path of learning. Okay, it follows a path of motivating responses this way. So you're going to see Victoria Stilwell start to set up that framework of response. But understand that why that's a problem. Dots aren't connecting here, okay? Defining what a process is. It's a intervention.
Clicker training is a popular method of teaching dogs various action cues and also of changing behavior.
So it's changing behavior. So understand the dog training world, that word isn't even used the right way. Okay, so understand you're working within a framework of response, superficial response. And so trainers will use that word in conjunction with superficial response, try to, affirm that something more meaningful. These responses mean something. A lot of times the responses are superficial. They don't mean anything. Okay, the dogs are just moving around for something they want. So you hear this word change in behavior. So it's not even used in the right context. So when I talk about, control, I talk about dog state of mind and behavioral issues. Think of it more like an express state. Control is manifesting. And again, how you want to see just a selfish child is a child becomes more and more selfish, right? The level of what I call stinking thinking, it's all about them, starts to escalate, starts to, right to the point of bullying, right? The level of disrespect. So it's manifesting itself, right? So be very cautious when you hear this word behavior used in the dog training world. They attach it to this superficial idea of things. And it's completely out of context. And a lot of terms are in the dog training world, okay? They sound great, but, you think about just the superficial nature of this, idea of things. They don't even align properly. So understand this is just a dog responding, okay? So they use the word changing behavior, right? It's a response that, more often than not, based again on how these trainers are jumping in, are totally superficial. Perception of dogs aren't actually changing.
How dogs react in different environments and different situations. And I'm going to show you how to begin the clicker process with your dog today.
So right here, she's dropping down treats. Understand this is use the motivator, right? To start to, establish some focus, right, onto an association through the human, right? So understand that I talk about a social contract, okay? In terms of how this is set in motion. Understand that I talk about, even go back to the parent example. Why it is that a child will go to, a parent because they get what they want. Okay, so understand how this is all set in motion. So, if I do A and B, I get C. But the thing that's missing here is about the relationship itself. Okay, tying in the parenting example properly. Understand those things matter. And so here, this is just about just response, right? This way. This is about just, okay, I want to, this is here. I want to generate some focus on myself, but even the context of focus. Think about within the permissive parenting style, the context of focus. What does that mean? What does that focus actually mean? I'll go to this parent, so I'm focused on them because I get what they want. I don't want to go to the other parent. They have a different, attitude about, parenting. Okay, think about that. So you see it even in terms of dogs and social animals. While they avoid certain people, they attach to other people in a possessive way. And the person thinks, oh, the dog loves me more. So feelings and emotions get all kind of twisted up in this stuff, and then people can never break free from it. And they wonder why it is that they have all these issues, but the dog loves them more. Of course, the dog is just being empowered, okay, through that type of connection. And so here, it's the same thing. Victoria Stilwell, what she's doing here, yeah, all she cares about is just um, getting these responses, set in motion, so she can, tie those in as being representing the changes happening. But the question I have to ask, well, how is she qualifying those responses? How is she determining that the perception is actually changing the right way? She's not, because those two core ingredients, influence and control, are absent. Okay, and those two core ingredients, those are what both reveal and change. This is why you get a dog on the leash, okay, and you start to bring a dog under intentional control and influence. You start to interact the way you watch my videos. You see how I'm doing it. The dog understands the language of the method through the intent, based on the interactions themselves. How control is coming in and being expressed the right way. You'll see a total different. You'll start to see it will reveal truth. In fact, you'll see that contrast because those two ingredients are online, and then the dog's off leash. Dog will look a lot better, because understand something here. Even in terms of control. Control provides a level of comfort and fulfillment to a dog. Okay, this is why context is so important here. This is why dogs can look a certain way and not be. And people get blindsided, like, where'd that come from? I got bitten, and it just seemed to come out of nowhere. Because that's the problem. That's the deceptive nature of appearances. Understand that you have to be able to understand what's happening here, your role. Those core ingredients, they need to be part of a process, especially once you have a relationship problem is already underway. You have to connect dots properly by way of what even behavioral issues represent. These trainers never do that. You don't hear them talking that way. It's totally superficial. You see the treats? Again, throwing down the treats, right? Trying to set up these responses, to bring these responses together, right? To create a sit or a down, right? No depth at all. Okay, I understand. There's because the question you should be asking as a dog owner is like, is this really what it's about? But think about the parenting example. You can get a selfish child to do a dance for the brand new Xbox game that just came out. But is that really what it's all about? Is just responses that way? Absolutely not. It's ridiculous. And this is the same thing. Dogs are amazing animals. They connect with us through socially, through this connection. It's great. But this is totally superficial. This is all about just the human's idea of things. But it does not connect dots properly here at all.
As you can see, I'm either hand feeding him treats or I'm throwing it on the ground and clicking just before he eats the treat. This is building up an association between the click sound and the...
Yeah, so you build up an association, right? It's called charging the clicker, right? Trying to add meaning, right? But, you have to ask yourself the question, well, in terms of, again, perceptions and meaning, value, what is that? What's the context of that? It's based on bribery. Okay, I mean, it's not meaning through the relationship, through the your role. Those core ingredients I talk about, influence and control, is part of a process. Understand that's absolutely critical. Strength and weakness is defined through nature. Understand those filter through that way. And so again, I just stop it here because my encouragement is think about it all starts at the beginning. This is the jumping in point. I understand there's no critical thinking involved here, and the dog training world is totally set up this way. And so you look at, not just force-free trainers, but about balanced dog trainers as well. You're all doing the same thing. This is why when dogs get blamed for a counterfeit picture at a response level within the framework of response, guess what? It's all about trying to blame there's something wrong with the dog. No, it's this idea. I mean, just look at all the inherent problems with it. You'll see it and you'll pay attention. And so again, clarity coming through. Again, the right process, those core ingredients, it has to come through the right way. So my encouragement, check my website, lots of great information. If you encounter anything to do with learning, okay, you hear those words learning, steer clear. Understand this is a brings people into deception. And then, don't take my word for it, but just look how common it is for people to end up with a counterfeit picture. You get your certificate, you feel really good, dogs look amazing within the framework of this idea, using treats, motivating responses. But then it's like something's wrong here. I haven't achieved the result I want because the dog's still, the perceptions haven't actually changed. Because those core ingredients, they have to come in, influence and control, but defined through a intentional interaction-based method. Thanks for watching.